Hi, I'm Milla, and welcome back to another Milla's Game Room video, or I would normally say that, but I'm not in a game room. In fact, I don't even have a game room anymore. I have this beautiful nature, and I'm going to go into why, because part of this is stuff I've been planning for a while, I've been hinting at it, and now I'm doing it, but part of it also ties into what we're seeing with the Switch 2, and I'm going to come back to all that stuff later. But for those that don't know, I've been wanting to travel for a while. I've been working on it, and now I'm at the point where I'm just making that move. I've literally spent early this year just going through all my games, selling a lot of stuff, putting the rest in the storage. I don't have most of my hardware anymore. Art books and OSTs, I've still got those, but they're all boxed up and for an unspecified amount of time, as in I don't know myself how long they're going to be stored for. They're going to be stored, and I will literally just be on the road, metaphorically and sometimes literally, gonna keep making videos and stuff as I'm going along. And first off, I've been wanting to travel for a while. I got the Steam Deck partly to help me do this, so I've still got the deck. I've even got a dock with me, so not literally on me right now, but I have a dock and my deck with my stuff, so I can, in theory, play console games anywhere on the Steam Deck, which is nice to make content, because I will still be making content. I still am planning to make regular content, at least bi-weekly, but I'm still adjusting in this adjustment period at the moment, so I don't want to give any final details yet on that. Same with if I decide to do a potential rebrand, because, Milla's Game Room. Is this a game room? No, it's not a game room. Is it absolutely beautiful? Yes, it's absolutely beautiful. Part of this reflects the attitudes of a lot of younger people. And I'm in my mid-20s, so I'm going to be focusing primarily on the reference points of upper Gen Z and lower millennials, because I'm in this weird spot where I can fall into both groups, so I relate to elements of both. And so I have the benefits of being able to get into older games a lot easier. This is why I talk about a lot of retro stuff like the Fan Translation series, which has really done well, by the way, thank you so much. But part of it is also I can relate to younger people and why they're into certain things like digital only and the more inclusive accessibility drives and multi-platform stuff. The trends I think a lot of older gamers, especially in the past, really struggled with, but are more like, we're just going to accept it now. And the same applies to digital games, but this urge to travel has been something I've wanted to do for a while, and a lot of my generation, we are traveling instead of going through the society tells us to do things, but it's off limits for us because of systemic issues like capitalism and systemic bigotry. And this is one of those videos where I have to touch briefly on external politics because it's fundamental to everything, even with the Switch 2 and its pricing stuff, which we're going to come back to the Switch 2 because, I'll start looping in it now. So, Nintendo revealed the Switch 2, but a lot of people have expressed concern at the price, which is probably the big issue surrounding the whole launch. The games themselves, for the most part, are great. Hogwarts shouldn't have been in the presentation, but that's more of a, do you give a shit about marginalised people? If you do, you won't buy Turfwarts, or even put it in your trailer. So, that's my Hogwarts Legacy dig for the video done. Everything else was great. I love Mario Kart. Donkey Kong Bonanza looks amazing. It is basically a second Mario Odyssey game, even though we won't actually get another Mario Odyssey from Nintendo. Let's say make us an actual sequel, but I don't think they're going to because they've made this Donkey Kong game, which, to be fair, looks incredible. And there's all the other stuff. Kirby Air Riders. There's the accessibility stuff as well. The Switch 2 has accessibility features. I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to say it's on par with like Microsoft, but it's there and it's a huge leap forward, and Nintendo deserves a lot of credit for that. Sustainability stuff as well. The Switch 2 is a more sustainable system as well, especially with... Obviously, there is the USB-C stuff, which I've talked about more in this video right here. It is due to EU law, so obviously Nintendo had to do that. The other thing that I really liked was actually the physical games. And the game keys. I'm going to take a very minority opinion here and say, while I do agree it's bad, if we are going to get anything that removes physical games in terms of, like, physical game keys are much better than code in the boxes because they're not eco-waste. You literally, with game in the boxes, you literally produce stuff, and once it's done, you use the code up, that's it. The game is now waste. You just have to chuck the case away or reuse it, and it's literally e-waste. Whereas if this cartridge, it's like, okay, the game's not on the cartridge, but the access to download the game is, which isn't tied to a user. So, although it's still not ideal, it's still better, because then the game itself will still have some value and will not just be environmental waste. And maybe I'll talk more about that properly in a dedicated video, but I wanted to get that out of the way. I think it's better, and I think if physical games were to go away, game card keys is an ideal compromise, but obviously that's still a bit tentative. But going back to the price, because this is the main thing that people took a lot of issue with. Now, for those who've been seeing arguments about, video game prices in the 1990s, yeah, the reason why they was like the 1990s for video games, the reason why it was better back then for some in the eyes of like these older people was because, first off, there were less games being made, period. And of course, we've got a lot of Japanese only games. I've literally been doing fantasization series where we talk about many of these games. You'd be surprised how many of them we just never got. So people will, of course, be talking about all these games that we just never got. And then, of course, the few games we did get, they were Christmas stuff, nostalgia, and also, but people just had more money. People also had stability. People had housing. People had community support. People had the means to not only manage having a game collection alongside all the other furniture, but also moving it around and taking care of it, and not having to worry about things like the climate crisis, where game collectors will and have lost their collections because of natural disasters. There were whole cases of this with the Los Angeles fires that happened early this year. So these are happening more often, and for people my age and younger, we are really aware of this. There's a reason why so many of us have become climate change activists and various other things that older people struggle to get their heads around. Like, why are you doing this? Why aren't you getting a job? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you earning more money or hustling? Because younger people know it's absolute bullshit. And that also ties into why I'm personally travelling, because instead of waiting for an unspecified point where I'd be stable enough to go, I'm just going to fuck it and do it anyway. And that's what a lot of people my age are doing. That's why you're seeing so many people travel. That's why you're seeing people become digital nomads. That's why you're seeing a lot of people move to digital, because even with the ownership issues and the drawbacks of digital in those ways, it is just much more suited for travelling, and you don't have to worry about the actual physical burdening of having a physical game collection. And for my experience of packing all my stuff away and storing it, I only got out a couple of videos last month because I was so overwhelmed with getting this stuff sorted and stored. There was just so much to do, and I just couldn't keep on top of it. It was just draining. It was exhausting. And it is a lot. And is it even worth it? Bear in mind that it could get destroyed in a natural disaster, or you might live somewhere and then you get evicted and you can't take it with you. Whether you're evicted legally or illegally, it doesn't matter, because landlords will evict people illegally. It happens a lot in the UK and it happens other places too. People will do it. So people, there's just not much incentive to actually have a physical collection anymore if you're my age. And I think a lot of people just they're not quite grasping that, and I think that's where a lot of the backlash for people talking about Switch 2 pricing is coming from. Because the pricing is bad, but it is a systemic issue that isn't so much an individual one. And there is some aspects of profiteering, like the companies that are choosing to do game key cards when they can clearly afford a physical release. I'm looking at you, Square Enix. It's not all Nintendo's fault. Nintendo is just a company that is unlucky enough to be releasing for Switch 2 post... Well, I'm not going to say post-pandemic, but post when people gave a shit about the pandemic, which is still ongoing, by the way. I will probably have to censor this out to prevent YouTube demonetizing the video. But it's a real thing. If you don't like it, cope. But moving that aside, systemic stuff like renting and capitalism, it's really bitten a lot since then. And that's also factored into it as well. People just don't have money. People have lost jobs. In the UK, it is pretty much impossible to actually get a good job anymore. It's a low-wage, low-skilled economy. All the stuff's in London, And if you don't live in London or can get to it in a reasonable distance, like, you're basically fucked. And it's similar to other countries as well. It's not as bad in Europe, mainland Europe. USA is really bad. Canada as well. But generally, it's bad. Like, young people, we don't have that conventional path anymore. So we have to look outside the box for happiness. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm still going to be making stuff. I'm still going to be doing things that make me happy. Because there is one aspect I need to talk about, and this is where I normally have to break one of my little rules for this channel, where I don't talk about external politics unless it's directly relevant. And of course, it's directly relevant, because the last few months especially, I'm sure we've seen all the stuff with Trump, the US, and the tariffs as well, but tariffs are a factor as to why the Switch 2 is expensive too, and why people won't be able to afford the Switch 2. That's a whole thing I'm going to save for other people to talk about, but that is a factor. And then there's also the blatant fascism, the blatant bigotry pushed by Trump, especially towards, like, as a British person who's in multiple marginalised groups, it is not safe for people like me to go to the US. Even the most privileged of white people are not safe when they visit the US now because of all that detaining shit that's happened. And this is before the ripple effects of that stuff will come over here. They'll come over else. It's a constant stressor. And it is scary, and if you are exhausted by this, I hear you. I get it. It's a lot. If you're being stressed out by this, that's perfectly rational. That's perfectly reasonable. It is the correct response, and I feel you. I understand. You'll be okay. And the best way you can actually fight things like fascism is not just the grassroots stuff. It's not just the political stuff, which I touch on some of it lightly when I talk about sustainability, like in my sustainability essay video, which I'll have photoed or up here. But the other thing as well is being true to yourself and doing what makes you happy, getting out in nature, reconnecting with the world around us, such as this, all this beautiful nature, to reconnect with this, and building a sense of identity that not only goes beyond video games, but also further helps you grow as a person and keeps you mentally fit as much as you can to help deal with this stuff, and also being able to have the capacity to help other people and get through all this bullshit. And that's, to me, that's what I'm doing. And the Switch 2, that whole situation, the ripple effects of that and people's backlash, understandably, isn't touched on any of this stuff, but it is all linked. It is all interlinked. The Switch 2 will not do as well as the Switch 1. It looks like a great system. Objectively, it will be a better system in terms of its actual technical stuff. I would get one if it wasn't for my situation, because, again, Mario Kart, it will be a launch title. Yeah, if I wasn't travelling now, I would have gotten it as a day one game. Like, that is how much I love Mario Kart. And a lot of people playing it will probably do the same as well. Like, Mario Kart World looks great in many ways. Getting into the real world and helping to get through the bullshit in the real world means that when you can get through things like Mario Kart World, the virtual worlds, many other worlds like this, you can really appreciate it a lot more. And yeah, I think I'm going to stop there. I've gone on for a long time. This isn't the kind of video I normally do. I will say I am thinking about recording more stuff like this, where I come out into nature, do things like this. So if that's the style of video that you'd like to see, instead of me being in the game room. Oh, I just had a bug sit on my finger above the camera, which is really cute. You might have even heard it buzz on the camera, actually. But if people are interested in a different format change, let me know. I'm thinking I'm going to do it anyway, but it'll be more encouraging because you can see this nature is absolutely beautiful. So, yeah, gonna take care, look after yourselves. If you are struggling with everything going on right now, I get it. And don't worry about getting a Switch if you can't afford it. Don't worry about getting a Switch 2 either. And you got to do what makes you happy. And if that means taking big life decisions like going fuck it and start traveling and giving up on having a game room, something that previously defined you, or in this case defined my YouTube channel or your YouTube channel if you have one, then that's what you got to do. You got to do what you can to get through all this latest bullshit. And yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there. I don't know what exactly I'm going to do next in terms of everything, but I'm going to keep making videos and just keep, well, talking about video games, because video games are cool, and long live video games. See you later. Bye-bye.